That weapon looks so stupid. What do you mean it looks so stupid? It looks awesome. It's a wheel. See? That's so impractical. What do you mean? It's a giant saw blade. It's not impractical. How dare you, Zetrin? You just don't appreciate true art. The saw part would literally have the same effect and be more precise at a smaller size. No, it wouldn't have the same effect. It would need the weight behind it to cut people up. You're compensating for something, that's for sure. Wait, what are you talking about? Of course that's not true. What are you talking about? The saw blade needs to be big enough to cut through people. It's a saw? Well, just a thought experiment, Zetrin. Let's say you had a really tiny hand size chainsaw that you can hold in one hand. Alright? Versus a two-handed chainsaw that's much, much bigger. And then you have this really big, thick tree. Which do you think is going to cut through the tree easier? Just explain to me that one. Which one? Which one's going to cut through the tree easier? I'll give you a hint. It's the bigger one. You fool. That is such a different situation and serves a different... No! It's literally the exact same thing. I'm trying to cut people in half with a saw. Of course I want the saw to be huge. It's the exact same thing. God, your analogies are the most crap thing I've heard in my life. No, it's the literal exact thing. Well, fine, we'll make it 1-to-1. If you're trying to cut a person in half or people with armor, what do you want? A little tiny hand chainsaw or a giant people-sized chainsaw? Which do you think is going to have an easier time cutting through people? I'll give you a hint. It's the giant people-sized chainsaw, you fool. A person, not a tree. How is a tree equal to a person? Well, we just changed it to the person. It doesn't matter. It's equivalent because we're talking about how the size affects the ability to cut thick things. You're so absurd. A tree is super comparable to a person in this situation for what we're comparing. Because we're talking about the difference in sizes. That's why it has to be so small. You are absurd. You're actually absurd. The reason why it's a little tiny hand chainsaw is to put the extremes of the sizes into perspective. Your claim was that it didn't need to be this giant oversized saw. Your claim is that the size doesn't matter. Clearly, the size does matter, because if you have this little dinky chainsaw, it's not going to cut things, you fool. Fight, 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 fight. Get in a call with me? You're pissing. I'm taking back the prime I owe you. You're too stupid. How are you, a doctor or whatever? How do you not understand this? I'll get in a call with you. I'm in my Discord. Defending video game logic as being realistic is so dumb. I'm not. What are you talking about? It isn't video game logic to know that bigger saws cut through bigger objects. That's not video game logic, Zetrin. That's literally how the world works.
Are you defending video game logic as being...
I'm not defending video game logic, Zetrin!
So fucking stupid!
Bigger saws cut through bigger objects!
It's purely because video game logic is cool. There's no realistic application, otherwise it would have been done!
Zetrin.
But it's not!
Zetrin, when you have a big tree to cut, do you get a small saw or a big saw?
It's not about being one extreme or the other!
Zetrin, no, answer the question. Do you get a bigger saw or do you get a small saw?
The saw is smaller than that thing, and trees are larger than people, sheep! Why would you need something that big for something smaller than a tree?
We're not cutting things. I'm cutting down giant freaking monsters. What are you talking about?
Even then, the trees are bigger than those fucking monsters. Why do you need something that big? It's so dumb.
It helps damage them. What are you talking about?
Impractical.
It's not impractical.
About that weapon.
You need a bigger saw to cut through bigger objects. What are you talking about?
No, you don't.
Yes, you do. So you're saying you can use a little tiny handsaw is going to be
tiny one. Why is it one extreme? Your argument is so stupid. If it
no,
it being one extreme or the other, that is
because it shows the absurdity of your argument. When you take your yes, it does. When you take your argument, your logic to the extreme, it doesn't work. That means it's a bad argument because it's not logically sound.
Extreme or the other. It's not a fucking light switch, sheep.
It shows the absurdity of your argument.
No, it doesn't. That's not how you argue a point.
Yes, it is. That's literally how you argue a point.
That's not how you argue a point.
Yes, it is.
You don't go to fucking.
If your idea doesn't hold up in the extremes, then it's not a good idea.
That's not how that fucking works.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
That's not how you argue a point.
Zetrin. This isn't video game logic?
It's not about either it being too big or too small. There was an in between.
Because I'm cutting down giant things.
People
so you need a giant weapon.
In real life, but they don't use something like that.
I assure you, there's nothing in real life that people are using saws.
Where they fucking use something like that to cut down things of the size of whatever the fuck you're fighting.
Zetrin, there aren't things that are this size in real life.
You know, like
you're not using a saw on things as big as the things that I'm using them on in this game.
You know, there are really large animals in real life, right? And they don't use stuff that big to kill them.
There are really large animals that are as big as dragons? Yeah, I don't think so.
They use it. Actually, in the ocean there is. Bitch.
We aren't. Give me an example of a person using a saw to cut a fish in the ocean.
Exactly, they wouldn't because it's fucking
exactly, stupid. They wouldn't because it's not. That's not what they're doing. But it is what my character is doing. And you know what? If they were cutting up whales with saws, they'd use big freaking saws.
But they don't use saws. That's the point. It's stupid. That weapon is impractical.
That's where the video game logic comes from. It's a fun weapon, but it's not absurd because it's a giant saw.
It's not realistically practical. That's all I'm saying.
Stop lighting the air horn, Piggy. You're not helping.
Because you're stupid.
I'm not stupid.
It's video game logic.
You use a big saw to cut down big enemies.
You don't.
Yes, you do.
You're trying to de-escalate the situation, okay?
You're not helping.
You're literally staying silent. There's nothing you're doing here that's
escalating. This enemy is using a giant saw to cut me down. He has person-sized saws.
That's true. I've been just spamming a bunch of random shit that's it's loud noise.
It's really bad. I hate everything about it.
I played Baby Shark and a bunch of other stuff.
You give him your money for being stupid, sheep. I mean, Piggy, don't do that.
I'm not being stupid. I'm right. You use big saws to cut down big objects. That's all I'm saying.
No, you don't.
No, God, please, no, no, no.
Really don't.
So stupid. Yes, you do.
Oh, to kill a killer whale or something.
I'm only giving him like literally 80 cents. It's all it is.
That's too much money for stupidity.
It's not stupidity. I'm just right. He doesn't like it.
You're wrong. You're so wrong.
Ooh!
You should be.
That was so close.
Piggy, do it. Can I request a refund on my Prime? Is that a thing? Can I take my Prime back?
You deserve to have to pay me for that dumb argument you were trying to make.
No, I was arguing for realism, man. Video game logic is fine, but that's just not realistically practical.
It's a giant saw because of video games, but it's practical because giant saws cut down giant objects. Yeah, I don't know how to get across that area. There's like a thing over there, and there's no clear path to it. I'm not sure what to do.
Have you tried getting good?
I'm trying. I hate this guy.